Welcome back to the O Hockey Show, and I hope you are having a fantastic day as I am. I've already talked about the NHL currently planning on having expansion teams, which I think is a genius idea, talking about going to Quebec, going to Atlanta, not such a good idea, and going to Houston. And I think it's a genius move. The NHL needs to expand. They need to grow the sport of hockey, which is a whole thing that the NHL is failing at, as us as well as hockey fans are failing at. And I've got so many reasons why hockey isn't growing, and it's probably not because people are like, oh, because it's in places like Arizona where it's not a hockey market. Well, guess what? The way you grow the sport or grow anything is by going to new places. So you idiots out there thinking that going to places like Arizona or Florida or Las Vegas or Texas are idiots, because that's how you grow something, is by going to a new place. Maybe going to Europe. Who knows? Maybe you go to like somewhere like Mexico City, which is a crazy thing to think about, but how do you grow a sport? By not going to new places. That's how you grow it. So and there's so many other things the way you grow the sport online, but that's a whole thing I'm going to make on its own video. It'll be a whole thing. I've got a series planned for it. I'm going to do it, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about cities that the NHL should expand to that most likely aren't going to happen. So the main ones, Quebec, Houston, and Atlanta, are the mainly talked about ones that they most likely would do. I think those are good ideas, except Atlanta, but I'm here to throw in my own hat to talk about some cities that should get a team before those ones. So Toronto, let's start off with Toronto. I think it would be a genius move by them to add a second team to Toronto, the first Canadian city to have two teams. And I think Toronto would be the best place for it, as the Maple Leafs already are the second most valuable team, the number one most valuable Canadian team. And adding in a second team there in Toronto would be such a genius move. Name them the Superbirds or something. I don't know. And the Maple Leafs versus the Superbirds. Already there's the population there. Toronto being one of the biggest populations, the biggest cities in Canada. It's already got the built-in fan base, as we know. Already Toronto, a huge hockey market. But the rivalry there. The rivalry between Toronto versus Toronto. The Superbirds versus the Maple Leafs. I don't know why they're called the Superbirds, but that's what they're called in my mind. The rivalry there. It would be such an electric energy between those two teams, and it would give kind of an outlet for those guys. I mean, I would be lying if I said I love the Maple Leafs. I kind of am against them, but on the other hand, I do feel bad for them. But I would definitely cheer for the Toronto Superbirds over the Maple Leafs. And I think you would give an outlet for the fans that hate the Maple Leafs and how they get all the media attention for people like me, and I would cheer for the Superbirds instead. And I think the Maple Leafs already lovers would hate the Superbirds and would have such an electric rivalry. It'd be split the NHL fan base in half, and I think it would just be is such an electric thing. I would pay and go to Canada and go see that game between those two in the playoffs. Could you imagine an outdoor game between those two teams? Absolutely genius move. It would make money. There's the fan base. There's a population. It would just make sense. Moving on to San Diego, which I know might be a crazy one, but I gotta say, I think it's genius. Adding a fourth team to California would be such a big thing. Hockey has a culture problem as it's not bigger, which is, once again, huge thing I'm going to talk about one day. But growing that culture, going to places like California especially, the number one culture producer of probably the world in California, and San Diego, LA already is taken over by Los Angeles and Anaheim, which is right next to it. But going to San Diego, so they're up north in San Jose, in LA, go down south a little bit more, go to San Diego and grow the sport. It's the 8th largest city in the United States in San Diego. They've only got one sports team, so they got plenty of room to add in another team. And no, they don't. They have two teams. What am I talking about? They have the Padres and the Chargers. So I'm stupid. But anyways, adding in that sports team, adding in a hockey team there would be such a big idea. Now, there's no fan base. There's no built-in hockey fan base, right? But that's the thing. You got to grow the sport. Go to more places in California. Go down there. People travel to San Diego for vacation. add in and I know people don't like the idea of a small hockey arena, right, for the Coyotes, because dear God, it's a small arena. Oh no, take a look at in the Premier League. In soccer or any soccer teams in anywhere else in the world, they have small stadiums. You know why? Because not every city needs a 50,000 seater. They only need 2,000 people because it's in a small town. San Diego's not a small town, but it's got a small fan base. Start them in a small arena that holds like 5,000 people, maybe up to 10,000 people. People go traveling there. There's going to be some fans there already, and make it an event to go to. Make the tickets cheap somehow, and I know it's like, oh, well, duh, yeah, make the tickets cheap. But I don't know how you do that. I'm not the financial expert here, not yet at least. And make it an event. Make it a thing people need to go to. Make it a big deal, like Vegas. In Vegas, people go to Vegas. I mean, I'm already a hockey fan, but I'm sure a lot of the people that go to Golden Knights games aren't already hockey fans. They're just in Vegas. They just won $1,000 off a poker game or a slot machine, and they're like, I gotta go spend it. And they go to a Vegas thing, they get drunk, and they have so much fun. Make it an event like that. Make a big window, and I know there's ice, but make a big window so you can see out into like San Diego, make it see the beach or something, and make it a big, beautiful event that people want to go to and experience the San Diego, what would be a cool name? They got the Chargers, that's a dumb name. San Diego Padres, that's a dumb name. Make it like the San Diego, San Diego Zoo, name them something like a cool animal, like the San Diego Komodo Dragons or something. That'd be weird, but just something like that. Make it an event to go to see San Diego games. It's a big city. Grow the sport, culture. It's all there. Moving on to the Midwest, and by the way, LA, one of the biggest teams as well. So California RFC likes to have hockey teams. Anaheim's overshadowed by the Kings, but that's because the Kings get all the attention. They've won more recently. So, and LA is LA. It's not Anaheim. They're right next to them, but LA's Los Angeles, Anaheim, no one cares. But moving on to the Midwest. So I think Milwaukee could be an interesting place to put a hockey team. It's up there. It's in a colder climate. It's in the middle of Detroit, Chicago, Minneapolis, where the Wild are. And I think the Milwaukee City would be a good team. It's a bigger city. It's almost up to 1 million people. But as well as the Milwaukee Bucks went from being a nothing sports team, and their numbers are growing. The Milwaukee Bucks are one of the fastest growing teams right now, value-wise. They're planning on getting to $3 billion sooner than later. And I think adding in another sports team there sooner than later as well, adding the hockey team, people are already going crazy over the Bucks there in Milwaukee. Add in another sports team. Add in your Milwaukee Wolves, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what lives in Milwaukee. Add in the Milwaukee Wolves, and then you have two big teams blowing up in a big market, and I think you need to capitalize on that. And it also adds more teams in the Midwest area, and you kind of solidify that region, and there's more rivalries there as well, and produce more money. Just makes sense. As well as I don't really believe in this one, but maybe like in Indianapolis. It's a bigger city in the United States, and it is a sports town. I don't know. They have other teams there in the Pacers and the Colts, and maybe you can add in a hockey team, just kind of grow in that environment. But I got to be honest, that Indianapolis doesn't really seem like a hockey town in my eyes. I don't think Indiana would really accept a hockey team very well, so maybe not there. But Chicago does great, so adding in a hockey team there, who knows? Maybe the whole city would get behind them. I have no idea. But I got a couple more here. Oklahoma City. It's a weird one, but it's a big sports town. They love their college teams there, and I think it could be a very interesting place putting them there. That it kind of have that small, like, people don't really think of Columbus being that big of a city, but it really is a big city, and Oklahoma City as well is kind of bigger than people realize. Putting in a sports team there, they already love their sports. Putting in the Oklahoma... What would be a good name for a hockey team there? The Oklahoma Dogs. I don't know. The Oklahoma Dogs. There we go. And just the people getting behind them, the environment, the energy in the building for Oklahoma City would be ecstatic, I think, for going there. As well as it's a new region for the NHL to grow in, putting them in Oklahoma City in like the middle of the United States could grow the environment there. Maybe they get popular as well. They make a lot of money. They can start investing in smaller things, in hockey programs for kids, and they grow the environment in the middle of the United States. Really an untapped area by all means. There's no teams there in Kansas and Nebraska in that region, which I know Oklahoma's not really that close to Nebraska, but you kind of get the idea. Middle of America type stuff. And then I've got New Orleans. I think that would be a great, smart move. It kind of has a Vegas feel, New Orleans, it's kind of, I don't know if like a party town is the right word for it, but when you think of New Orleans, you think of Mardi Gras, you think of a fun, eventful town, a city really, and it's on the water. You can go to a team there, they can base them off like a voodoo type thing. You go in the arena, it's all like, it's once again like a Vegas feel. Like make it one. I don't want to say make it an event, but make it like a real like energy in the building. It's like a very spooky thing. Make it like a cool, like, ooh, I went to New Orleans, went to like I don't know, name them the Voodoo or something. I went to a Voodoo game and it was nuts. It was like there was lights. It was like everything was glow in the dark. It was crazy. Something like that, and make it a real, once again, an event on Bourbon Street, something like that. I mean, the New Orleans Saints are one of the biggest teams in the NFL. Maybe putting in a hockey team there could do just the same thing. So that is all I have to say about some of my ideas on expansion teams, where they should go instead of where they're already thinking of going. And I think my ideas are better than theirs. So thank you for watching this. Please feel free to pick up your free subscription down below. We're at 124. We're almost at 200. Let's get there. Thank you for helping me out. And until next time, I've been your host, Owen, all about the boom I'm wearing today. And until next time, too sweet. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and ta-ta for now.